One. All right, here we go, people. We are back with another episode of Beast Feast, the new and official podcast of the Fairwinds CrossFit Beasts. I am here today with a dear friend of mine and a member of Fairwinds, Mr. Alex Ray. I'll let him himself and tell you a little bit more about him in a minute. But I thought it'd be great to have Alex on. I think that he is the number one expert I know in my life on how to be braver. And you'll see why that pun is good in a minute. So welcome, Alex. I'm so happy to do this.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So do you want to tell the kiddos a little bit about yourself, like your elevator speech of kind of who you are and what you do, and then we can dive deeper as we chat?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Alex, as Ellie introduced me. I now am a full-time nutrition and fitness coach. I work primarily online with clients all across the US and UK. And I have a team of coaches that also work with me. They all have their own clients, and together we are Brave Fitness. And my fitness journey has been really interesting because I started 6 years ago after swearing that I would never in my life work out because gyms are disgusting and smelly. And
I mean, that's true. Like they are.
And then filled with scary gym bros flexing in the mirror. It's intimidating.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So my image growing up of fitness and what working out was, my definition of that was so much different than it is today. And so I swore I would never do it. And then here I am 6 years later through a long but fun, unexpected journey. And I now dedicate my life, my business, to helping others when they're feeling like not scared, or sorry, when they are feeling fearful. Okay, so like I love to help people feel more comfortable in the health, wellness, fitness area. I love to help people take that journey or that leap from being scared or intimidated or feeling inadequate or insecure to knowing that they have what it takes and that they're totally more than capable. It just might need a little helping hand, and that's where I come in.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned that you never wanted to ever set foot in a gym growing up. Were you involved in sports as a kid? Did you play any sports like growing up? And I know you were homeschooled, so you weren't in like high school sports, but like, did you do anything during that time at all? Or were you really just like not active?
I was active. I mean, I loved being outside. My nickname as a kid was Monkey Boy because I climbed all the trees all the time.
I love it. That's so great.
And then I never really got into sports, although in high school I did play soccer. That was the only sport I really enjoyed. Swimming also in the summer. I did swim team and I was pretty good at that too. But I was not very competitive. As a kid, there was part of me, which is really funny now. I've only started recently like figuring out what it was now as an adult, but as a kid, I was really kind of intimidated by winning because I didn't want other people to feel bad if I beat them. So I didn't really try very hard.
Oh my gosh. That's so sweet. Like,
yes,
I don't want
terrible.
you to feel bad, so I won't beat you. Like,
right.
Oh my God.
So I probably could have done better in some of the sports that I played, but I didn't think, I thought it was a nice thing to do to not beat people, to not try hard.
Oh, but that's, I mean, yeah.
It came from a good place, and it's funny to look back on though and realize that a lot of that came from some deep-rooted insecurities in myself, and thinking that the way that I earned value to other people was by like being their step stool. So my value wasn't like, some people try to put others down to feel above. I found my value in like letting other people step on me, which then also tore away at my also sense of self and worthiness, and which is part of the reason that I was so scared also to work out. I didn't think I was strong enough. I just didn't think I was capable, and I just didn't feel like I fit in or belonged. So I was really, really intimidated and scared to start working out. And when I, do you want me to go into the journey at all?
Go for it. Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna try. Yeah, just you go.
All right. So first off, one of the things that was really scary that I had in my head that blocked me from doing it was I thought genetically I couldn't um, build muscle. And a lot of that came from different things that my dad would say when I was a kid that to tear himself down. And then I identified with, okay, well, if he's like that, because he and I look very, very similar, or and so I thought, hey, if he can't do it, that means I can't do it. So I'm just not going to try, because if I don't try, then I can't fail. So let's just not even find out.
Which I think is a super common like stance to take when things feel scary, is to be like, well, if I just don't do it, then I can't be bad at it. So I'll just sit this
Right.
one out. And like, I personally did that for years with like running, like, because I was like, used to be really slow at running and like the beep test in middle school. And so then for like years after that, I would just be like, oh, I can't run like because of this or because of that. And so I'd do whatever the alternative was, because I didn't want to be the last one to finish,
Yeah.
like ever. So I was like, I'm just gonna sit this one out. Like, I'm just going to not do it, because if I don't do it, I can't be bad at it. I can't be the worst at it. So, but anyways.
Isn't it funny though, like how our result is always kind of created by our thought? Like you were thinking, I'm slow, so you never practiced, so you never got faster. I
Exactly.
was thinking, I'm incapable of being strong. I'm incapable of building muscle. I never tried, and therefore I didn't have any muscle. I wasn't strong.
Yeah. And like all of that too comes from the fact that like I was so hung up on like thinking that all of my little middle school classmates were super aware that Ellie finished last and were watching me finish last and like cared, which
Yeah.
they probably didn't notice. And if they did, they're not remembering it whatever number of years later, like I do.
Yeah.
Like they don't care. So it's like, and same with you. It's like people, no one was necessarily thinking, oh, like Alex doesn't have like the genetics to be strong, so he shouldn't like blah, 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 blah. It's like it's the story that you create in your head of what you think other people are thinking about you, or what you think is their reality, and it's not. So
Yeah. Totally. And and we put so much weight on what other people think about us too, when really we never know what anyone's thinking about us unless they tell us, right?
yeah.
But also I know that as a kid, and even now, there are areas of my life where I find myself really putting a lot of weight into what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has helped me succeed and go so far and totally changed my relationship with my body and with my identity has been realizing that it doesn't ever actually really matter what anyone else thinks, even if they are thinking the worst case scenario that we imagine up in our own head. That can't hurt us. Somebody else's thoughts are just their thoughts. They're not
Yeah.
anything that is actually worthy of being afraid of. We tell ourselves it is because as humans, we're meant for community. And so we're afraid of being the outsider, and we don't want to be pushed out of the group. And so our brain is actually developed with certain hormones and everything that it's going to raise or lower depending on perceived threat. And so when we are imagining that people are not going to like us or think less of us, we actually raise hormones that encourage our brains to crave human attention and suppress our identity. And so our brains literally try to just fit in so that we don't have to be 100% authentic in who we are, because that might mean being outcast.
Yeah.
But as we know, we don't live in, prehistoric times.
Yeah. We're not
We're not in
tribal
danger of,
communities. Yeah.
right. We have so much community and everything now. We as a species are so far ahead, and there's so much opportunity for community. It's not just the people that you are locally with each day, right? Our social networks spread all over the world now. And we're never really in the same danger that we used to be, but our brains are still programmed for that ultimate crippling fear. And so we feel it. It's very real, the way our feelings sort of react to a perceived threat. However, the threat isn't really there. And other people's thoughts are not going to hurt us or kill us like we think they will.
I think a funny thing, and my mom like always says this, it's like, nothing's gonna eat you. No one's gonna eat you. Like, you're fine. Like, whenever you're stressed out or worried about what other people are thinking, like, no one's gonna eat you. No one's gonna like take you out. Like, it's not, we don't have that same level of danger, like you said. But I think that's really great to kind of explain that. And like, I hadn't heard it explained quite that way before, but it makes total sense. And I think it really helps remind me, and I hope it helps remind others that like, it's exactly human to have those thoughts, and it's not like, we all have them on different levels and to different extremities. And like, of course we all want approval and recognition from our peers, but at the end of the day, like, what can you control? You can control how you think about yourself. You can't control what other people think about you. So
Totally.
yeah. But anyway, so back to your storyline. So how did you get from like thinking that you couldn't, build muscle or you couldn't be strong to being like, one of the strongest people at our gym? Debatably. I don't know, you and Jeff.
Yeah. So, well, also like to picture like young Alex, I was a toothpick. I was like this is how big my arms were. Like my
like
pinky finger. 6'4".
Oh my
God. I was probably 6 foot by the time I was like 15 or 16. Like I was very, very tall.
Still like in the 4s when I was like 15.
I don't think I've grown since I turned 18.
Yeah, I grew up a little bit when I was like 19.
Maybe 19.
When I hit 5 feet.
That's a milestone. So you hit 5 feet, I hit 6 feet or 6'4". But who's counting the extra 4?
Who cares?
So what part of what helped me start my journey was, okay, so I think mentally I had put a lot of this block on myself about like genetics, and so I didn't try. And then, as we know, if you don't try, then you're still stuck at the same point of failing. So you might as well try and fail and find out, because you already are at 0 if you just don't try.
Yeah.
I decided to start trying because my brother went to the gym, and he and I are kind of very genetically opposite. He's naturally very he's a heavier, whereas I was like a twig. And so he started actually losing weight and putting on muscle, and I was like, well, I'm the older brother, he can't be stronger than me. So,
any of our sibling beasts relate to that? Because we got a lot of siblings in the beast program, and it gets competitive.
Yeah. So because of him, I actually joined the same gym and started working out with him and a friend of ours, and the 3 of us like were kind of gym buddies for a while. And then I decided we had kind of plateaued with the limited knowledge that we had, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna go get a personal trainer, somebody that knows what they're doing and can help me.
And how old are you at this point? I think from what I know,
I would have been 19.
Okay, so it was like right when you finished high
19
school.
or 20.
Okay.
Yeah, it was probably a year after finishing high school. It might have been 20 by the time I got a trainer.
But still, like, young is my point. Like, I mean, we're both young now, but like young, you weren't, this isn't, late in life. This is still pretty early. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then I stuck with him for a few months. And then when I moved, it was I I quit. It was partly a money thing, partly a location thing, and I hadn't really actually enjoyed working out at all during this. I was still just working out for the result, and not at all enjoying really the process. So during that time off, it was about 6 or 7 months without working out at all, nothing. And friends had told me about CrossFit, and it sounded intimidating, it sounded scary, it sounded weird, but it also sounded fun, and at least like it was a cheaper alternative to having a person that knew what they were doing coaching me.
Right.
And I also love being around people. I love community. So that appealed to me too. And I gave it a try. And I've been doing it ever since August 2016.
That's awesome.
So CrossFit really is actually or is it August 2016 or 15? I don't know, 2015 or 2016. I can't remember. Anyway, so CrossFit, though, the competitive nature there, and having it be a friendly competition that was very encouraged, helped also break my mindset of this like competition is mean to competition is something that like friends do with each other to build each other up.
Yeah.
It's not about tearing each other down. It's like, I'm going to go my hardest so that you also go your hardest, which we will then propel each other forward.
Yeah.
So that CrossFit really meant a lot in that area. It also helped me enjoy fitness for the first time, because I wasn't just going in to like lift something heavy and put it back down, which never seemed to have much purpose.
No, it doesn't make much sense to me either. I think we're both like that. Like we're both such people. Like even like now with the Zoom WODs that we're doing during this Corona situation, like I'm not someone that's like just gonna go do a workout by myself without it. I mean, yesterday I ended up doing that, but like I really don't like doing that. But like the fact that we have the Zoom calls, I'm like, great, these are the people. Like I care more about being with the people than CrossFit. And I think that's most of Fairwinds and most of the Fairwinds community that like Jack and Eric have really fostered and grown. It's like most of us like CrossFit, we enjoy it, but we come back because we like our friends.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, sorry, continue. Totally interrupted.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I really like that I think CrossFit's unique with is it really encourages you to always just kind of compete with yourself too. Because each time I'm doing like a weightlifting movement, I'm trying to can I just add a little bit more weight? Can I just get a little bit stronger today than last time? Or, sometimes there's also periods of time where you don't the weight doesn't necessarily go up, but that you're like conditioning and practicing, and you can kind of look back and feel like, whoa, this is kind of getting easier, and it used to be really, really hard.
Yeah.
So that for me is really exciting and encouraging, just to see the progress in the moment during the class. Or like if it's an AMRAP, right? Can I get one more rep in? And or if it's a gymnastics movement, practicing and practicing and practicing, and then finally getting that handstand, or then practicing and practicing and practicing, and finally being able to turn that handstand into a handstand walk.
Yeah.
All of those little things are really, that's what I love. That's really exciting and fun for me.
So it's so funny that you said handstand, because, and I feel like I actually talked about this with Eric on the podcast, and the first podcast I did with the girls. So I just guess we're just going to keep talking about it. But Anna, one of our beasts, finally got a handstand earlier this spring, or like end of winter. I think it was like end of February. And it was so cool because that's something that she's been trying to get, for as long as she's been in beasts. And it was really exciting. And like something that really got me thinking about was, how are these skills transferable to life, of like a gymnastics movement, like a handstand? It's like you work a little bit at it all the time. You keep trying, like, you keep attempting it. You keep just chipping away bit by bit over time, putting in the work over months, and then you'll see the result. Like, I think especially when I think about myself in high school, I got very hung up on kind of wanting things and wanting them quickly, and like wanting and being impatient, whether that was sports related or whether that was, hearing back from which colleges I like applied to, or whether that was getting grades back or whatever. Like I was very much like, oh, like I want to know the answer and I want to know it now. And I want to have the end result. And I still find myself getting like that. But I think it's really, I don't know, it's interesting to compare kind of practicing skills in the gym to how they apply to life. And I think that CrossFit, in particular with gymnastics movements and some of these other harder maybe movements that we come up with in the gym that take people lots of time to work to, when you finally get that, like it's so much better. Like than if you could just like walk in and just like try for a couple days to get a handstand push up and then you just nail it. You'd be like, okay, well, you wouldn't appreciate that. Like the process of working towards something bit by bit. And it's the be curious, be courageous, be consistent, like the Fairwinds motto of like, be curious to try it, be consistent and working at it, and like have the courage to believe that like you will get it if you keep working at it. And like I've seen that apply to like my life, but like I think it's a very special thing about CrossFit. And I think even a more special like Fairwinds CrossFit thing that like we really focus on that, courage, consistency, like just chipping away bit by bit. And like, for the beast, like you guys like listening, like, you might not realize that at the time, that these things like transfer to these great life skills, but like maybe take this as a challenge to like reflect on like something that, you worked hard to achieve in the gym or something you're still working hard to achieve, and how like maybe those lessons can transfer over to other areas of your life. Like, I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Especially like they'll really, really help as during school, particularly like college and after. And for me, like the process of building my business, because I never finished college. I got a job for a tech company. I was doing really well. I loved what I was doing. I was moving up fairly quickly. And but I started realizing that what I thought I was going to get from the job, I wasn't getting at all. I really lost interest in it. And at the same time, I had started coaching people for free online and realized that that was my passion. And that was 3 years ago. And now, after a year of doing stuff online for free, I ended up quitting my job to make it my full-time thing. And the past 2 years of fully being self-employed have been like wild and scary. But through all of that, each time I hit a point of thinking, oh, this is it, like I should just give up, that mindset that is the same thing that you need in order to really do well with also your fitness journey is it's worth it. Even if I do end up failing, let's not give up early. Let's keep pushing, because the challenge, the journey is actually the most fun part.
Yeah.
And it's the most worthwhile part. And if you can apply yourself and do well with just being comfortable while being uncomfortable, you can go so far in life, because you're no longer letting that fear dictate how you choose to react. Instead, which is why Brave Fitness, we're making brave decisions. And bravery, a lot of people hear brave and they think, oh, you're not afraid. No.
Yeah. No.
Very afraid. Very fearful. And that's okay. Bravery is recognizing fear, being totally understanding of fear, allowing the space to be afraid, and then to say, hey, I'm afraid, but I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let the fear dictate my action. I'm going to be brave in the face of fear, and I'm going to like overcome this.
Yeah.
Even if it seems so far off and hard to envision right now. I know that I'll get there eventually, but I've got a process between now and there that I've got to enjoy.
Yeah.
Just settle into it.
I think that with bravery too, like something that I don't really remember where I heard this, but something that I try to like focus on too is like, if you can name what you're afraid of out loud, like if you can say like, I am afraid of, and let's like, I'll do a real example right now just for fun. Like, I'm afraid that like, I'm going to get coronavirus. Like, I am afraid that like, I will get sick and that we won't be able to get help because the hospitals are going to be overrun. And just saying that out loud, like I can just release that fear a little bit. Like I can say that that is what I'm afraid of. I can put it into words. And then I can think, okay, what are things I can control? What are things that I can do? And not to make everything about coronavirus, but I mean, we're all talking about it all the time. But like, you know, whether that's saying, okay, you know, if you are afraid to try going back to the handstand example, like, oh, I'm afraid to try to kick up to the wall to a handstand because I'm afraid that I'll fall and I will look silly. Like if you can just say that out loud, then as soon as you say it, you can kind of realize, well, like, is that really a good enough reason not to try? Like I have found that like when I say what I'm afraid of out loud, I usually can kind of like make myself be brave enough to try it anyway, or to, you know, continue on and move past that fear, because it's like you say it out loud and it kind of doesn't have as much control anymore. And maybe not saying it out loud if you don't feel comfortable, but like writing it down too. Like as soon as you can kind of articulate what it is you're actually afraid of, I think it's sometimes easier to step into that fear and move towards.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Totally. Well, and the method that I use too with all of my clients now, I use the coaching model. And because a lot of what I do is to help people also with, you know, not just a workout plan or a nutrition plan, but also all the mindset and everything that goes into a successful fitness journey. And so when working backwards, you know, I feel afraid. Well, my feelings are always caused by my thoughts. And like you said, if you're thinking, I'm going to look silly, I'm afraid, I'm not going to do it, and if you don't ever do it, then you won't ever succeed, which will usually then reinforce your thought, yeah, because I would look silly, because I can't do it. But you didn't try.
So you don't know.
So you don't really know. And the same thing about like what other people are thinking. If those thoughts actually can't ever really hurt you, even the honest truth that I've realized now is no one is paying anywhere near as much of attention to me as I am. I used to think that people would laugh at me at the gym. I didn't want to work out. Another reason I didn't want to work out, other than feeling like I couldn't, was what if I go there and I just look like an idiot? Aren't people going to make fun of me?
Yeah.
Like,
I think everyone thinks like it's like no one is thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. Like especially at the gym, like. Right. And I try to say this to, you know, the beasts and stuff sometimes too, and they're thinking that if like when you're in the middle of the workout, all you are thinking about is like, when is this going to be over? What number am I on? If you're counting, what round am I on? Like, think like you go into this like dark hole, at least I do. And I think most people do, where like, I am not paying attention to a single other person in the room. Like we are all such self-absorbed creatures that we are thinking that everyone's thinking about us, but actually what everyone else is doing is probably the same thing. They're thinking that you're thinking about them. They're not thinking about you. And like, as soon as you can just like realize like, okay, no one is thinking about me as much as I am thinking about them, thinking about me, thinking about them, thinking about me. It's a little bit of freedom, like in that sense. So, totally. It's hard though. Like we are both like, I'm fully like, they get to know, like I'm 24, you're 25, like, and we are both still actively working on this all the time. And I know like Eric is working on this all the time. I know my parents work on this. Like it is a work in progress. We're not just sitting here being like, stop caring about what other people think, because no, it's not how easy it is. But I think it's just good to start to hear these things and start thinking about them as early as you can. And just, you know, whether that's 1 out of every 10 times that you think someone's thinking about you or not, that you just decide to let it go and do it anyway, then that's great. Maybe maybe in a couple months, it'll be 2 out of every 10 times you think that you let it go, and just it's little bits by bits, and it'll ebb and flow. So
totally. And that's such a great point, because a lot of people find it really hard. They go, oh, okay, well, if it just is in my head, then let's just fix it right now, right? But the problem is you have that fear about like maybe I'm not worthy because other people are going to think badly of me. And then you catch it and you go, I can't believe I had that thought. It shouldn't matter what they think of me. I'm so stupid for thinking of what other people think about me. And now you've
Another
like
dark
added
hole.
another layer. I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
And I think it starts a whole shame snowball. So most of us really have to start like teeny weeny baby steps. Forget trying to fix it right now. Just become aware of it. Like
Yeah.
start noticing, oh, I'm not doing this because I'm afraid of what other people think of me. Is that a good reason? Probably not. I don't really want to think that way. Just observe it and let it happen. And then slowly go, okay, well, I want to try it. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to prove to yourself, hey, you did have what it takes. But be patient with yourself and understand it's totally okay to really just start with observing your thoughts and not trying to change them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was gonna say, so like one of my kind of thoughts or questions I had in my mind for this was kind of asking of like, if you could put it into like a short, like 30-second answer, like what would your best advice be on how to be brave in the face of fear? But I feel like we just kind of answered that in a very roundabout way, which was just
Yeah.
working at it. But
Well, I think it all like the most succinct way to put it is you're realizing that your thoughts are always creating your fear. So nothing outside of you, other people, other scenarios like coronavirus, for example, anything outside of you can't actually create that fear emotion in you, right? Coronavirus causes people to be sick. It doesn't cause them to be afraid. It doesn't cause emotions. Thoughts cause emotions. So when you're thinking about that, your thinking is actually what's creating your emotions. So the succinct way is realizing fear is based on thoughts and thoughts are in my control.
love it. I think that's great. Let's put on a t-shirt. I love that. Like,
I love it.
Like, because we've been talking a lot. I mean, on both podcast episodes, but also like on Instagram and just with the beasts about like, what are things that you can control? Because there's a lot of things you can't control in your day-to-day life as a human being. There's a lot of things that you feel like
And isn't that great though? Can you imagine if you had to be responsible for all of the things that your brain is telling you, I should be able to control this?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's too many things to juggle.
Yeah. Too many decisions. But I think especially like as like a teenager, I think it's really easy to feel like there's nothing that you can control or nothing you can do. That's at least how I remember it feeling like all the time. It's like, well, I can't do anything because I'm stuck here, like in this age bracket, I can't control any of these things. And then especially now with all coronavirus stuff, it's like there's so many things we can't control, but like what are things we can control? And like from that, it's like you can control your thoughts to an extent. Like don't make yourself crazy. Like don't be angry at yourself if you have a negative thought or a thought that it's a fear thought, but like try to recognize that, like you said, and then maybe think about some positive things, like, and then just slowly, just bit by bit. That's
I started with also just going. What was that?
I said the summary of this whole podcast episode is it's all just bit by bit. Just keep trying a little bit, chip away a little bit at a time.
Totally.
Yeah.
One of the things that really helped me too with taking those baby steps was having compassion and just noticing the thought and going, oh, like like stepping outside myself and like looking like, oh, you poor frightened person.
like oh,
and then having compassion on myself and going, I don't want to be afraid, or I don't want to just live by the fear all the time. And then started inserting some small, like starting small and growing the encouraging self-talk, the encouraging ideas, the encouraging thoughts. Because if you're focused, especially like let's keep it if on the train of the coronavirus right now, if you are thinking, hey, all these things are happening to me, I have no control, that's going to probably trigger feelings of helplessness, which are then going to lead to not taking action, because if you're helpless, so why do anything? And then your result is, yeah, everything is happening to you because you're not actually doing anything. You're just laying in bed doing nothing. Or you could think, hey, this really sucks, and that's okay. Like, I'm really bored. As much as I don't like being bored, boredom doesn't hurt me. I'm I'm okay. I still have life. I still have things worth living for. I still have family. I still have friends that I unfortunately don't get to see. Like, I'm going to maybe take some time to be upset, to miss these things, to grieve them.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to change my thought to, I still have control over some things. Not everything, but I have control over some things. Like, what am I going to do today? Am I going to just sit in bed, or am I going to FaceTime a friend? Am I going to like sit around feeling sorry for myself and constantly revisiting all the negative things or the things that I'm missing? Or am I going to create a day that might be fun? Maybe I'm going to go on a hike or a walk or something, or take the dog out, or FaceTime my friend and have a deep conversation that I might never be having with them because normally we'd be distracted doing something else.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to get to look back on this in a few years. Give a gift to your future self. Give the gift of being able to look back and say thank you to who you were today, instead of that future self looking back and being like, why didn't you do anything?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I love you, old self, but come
Like,
on.
yeah.
You could have, but you chose not to.
And I think now, as we're, like at the time we're recording this, we're heading into week 3. Like, I think now is the time to start being like, okay, what is the routine we need to set? And like, what are things like, that I want to accomplish every day that maybe otherwise I wouldn't have the time to do? And, I think I'm the first to say, and like, part of it is because I keep reminding myself of like, it is okay, especially the past couple of weeks as this is happening, like, it is okay to stay in bed. Like, it is okay to feel like you're not being productive enough and just process what is happening. But I think that there is a turning point, and I'm not saying it has to be today, or whenever you're listening to this, but like, there will be, and you might have to push yourself to get there, a turning point where you say, okay, I'm going to take control of my schedule and routine. And like, maybe I don't want to wake up, I'm not saying you have to wake up the time you normally wake up for school if you were going there, guys, but like, maybe I'm going to wake up at 8 every day on the weekdays and just be awake and just do things and get out of bed. And maybe I just shower and I put on my daytime pajamas instead of my nighttime pajamas, but like, I changed, and you get dressed and you go do things, and like, you can still have this time to rest and really appreciate the opportunity to slow down that this is providing us. But I think that, yeah, there is a point, and we're getting there as this is settling into more of a long-term scenario where like, okay, push yourself a little bit to focus on the things you can control. But I just was going to get in to say, it's like, if this is still a lot to process for you, especially like, and your mental health and everything, like, that takes precedence. And like, if you really just need to process this still, and that isn't being productive or accomplishing all the things, that's okay too. And like, maybe you need to ask a parent or someone that you live with for help and kind of motivating you. Like, I know I asked for that in quarantining, or germ bubbling, like as my mom called it, at my parents' house with them. And like, I said to them last week, I was like, hey, my goal is to wake up at this time on the weekdays and not watch TV until after dinner. Can you just help me do that? And if I am not awake, can you just yell up and be like, didn't you say you wanted to be up? And like, just that little bit is enough for me to be like, okay, time to get out of bed, like, time to like go do things. And like, ask for accountability, and whether, if it's someone you live with, great, ask a friend to text you, like, and say, hey, every day this week, like, let's talk for 20 minutes on the phone, or like, set schedules, like set timing, and ask for help. I think that's like my best advice through all this, is like, ask for help. Don't be afraid to like reach out to a friend. Like, don't be afraid. Or a coach or family or whoever, because I think that that's what we all need, especially with less human contact day to day outside of the house. I think it's good to connect in other ways and support each other.
Totally.
So yeah.
And I think with that, like if you're afraid to reach out, it's probably because you're having a thought like, oh, I'll seem silly if I ask for this, or I'll seem weird. And again, that's going to trigger, like we talked about at the beginning, that hormone shift.
Yeah.
And your brain's going to imagine it into this whole scenario of, I'm going to lose all my friends and die because I asked for help, right? You go, I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to look silly. Ellie is never going to talk to me again because I like seemed vulnerable. And now all of my friends are going to leave me and I'm going to die alone. And the truth is, we both are in the same scenario. Ellie may or may not be having the same feelings that I am of like feeling lonely and wanting some accountability. And most people are afraid to take that first step. So if you can be the brave one that takes that first step, you are so often rewarded with being met back with the other person going, oh my gosh, I've been thinking the same thing.
We
Thank
had
you.
this the other day. Yeah. Like I was just gonna
Right.
say, like, this literally happened. Like I texted you about the podcast and I was like, we should FaceTime or something and just talk. And you were like, I want to call you and run this idea by you. And we ended up talking for like an hour and a half. And like,
Right.
I was so like, I didn't realize I hung up. I was like, oh my gosh, I needed that. Like I just needed like conversation and just talking and like maybe talking in circles and being a little bit repetitive with, but like just having a conversation. So most of the time, I think if you text a friend and say like, do you want me to call you? Like, or can I call you? Can we just chat?
Yeah.
They're gonna say yes. Also, if they say no, what are they doing? Like,
well, do you really want that friend?
Yeah, like, well, yeah, well, but also, I'll end it then say, if they say no, they can't, it maybe say,
right, they might have a reason. But
maybe like, it's really hard for them right now to talk and be social. Like, I definitely went through that the first couple days this happening. I was like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to talk to people. I just want to isolate a little bit, literally and figuratively. And I still am like that, like, you know, I've been meaning to call like my grandparents through all this, and I keep just, that thought just keeps feeling like overwhelming, and I keep like pushing it off. So if someone says no, don't write them up immediately. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe say,
I meant more like if they're like, if you're like, needy and I never want to talk to you again. Like
that's not a good friend. But if your friend's
which
like,
is
hey, I
probably just in your brain.
Yeah, like, hey, I can't, or like, no, not right now, or like, maybe just say, okay, let me know when's a good time for you, or let me know when you're ready for that, and like they'll probably reach out. Like, you know, so don't write people off is our point. But I think on that grain too, and like something I wanted to kind of like touch on, because I think that we're both maybe a little different in how much like how open we are like talking about it, is like mental health through all this and mental health in general. And we've been talking for a while, so I don't want to take too long, but I think that, you know, I'm the first to admit, like, and I say a lot of people, like, I have anxiety. I've had bad anxiety since high school. Like, it gets triggered by different things. And like this coronavirus was one of those things that like triggered a lot of it. And like, I had a hard time, you know, the first week or so, and now moving into week whatever, I feel like in a better place and whatnot. But I guess on that note, I just like kind of wanted to bring it up and see if you kind of had any thoughts of like, you know, different ways to either talk about it, reach out for support, or to feel more comfortable, you know, admitting and owning if you're having, you know, feelings of anxiety or depression or anything like that. Because I think that for me, once I kind of was able to own it more and just say, similar to stating what my fears are, when I was able to say, I'm having anxiety about this, or this is triggering my anxiety because, and explaining that to friends and family members, it made life a lot easier. And I think that ties into bravery really well, and you might have some good insight on that. So I wanted to not miss that.
Yeah. So you're asking like anxiety specifically about this, or just anxiety in my life in general?
Just anxiety in life. Like, I think that you're someone to me, like as a friend, that has been a good role model of just kind of owning your experiences with anxiety and owning experiences with depression and like mental health in general in a way that is so brave. I know we keep saying brave. That is really it's been a great reminder for me of like, the more we can all just talk about it and be open, the more we're all going to be able to help each other. So just kind of ways to, you know, be brave, be brave about owning your mental health and your feelings. And also how are ways that maybe if it feels really scary to be brave about it or ask for help, like what are some things that you think can make that less scary? I
Yeah.
don't know if that makes sense. My question's kind of all over the place there, but
So yeah, well, first off, I've dealt with anxiety since I was a little kid, like
yeah.
um uh elementary
Honestly,
school.
probably me too. I just like associate it with high
Yeah.
school because that's when I finally got like the verbiage for it. But in retrospect, probably was always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And depression too was a very serious issue for me too. I've been on and off medication for depression and anxiety for most of my life. I think I started medication when I was in middle school, and I'm currently not taking anything. I stopped about a year ago, but in there, I had tried a few things and I'd be off for a few years and then back on. Um, and the medication is a great tool. And I know that early on, I had a lot of shame around it because people don't talk about it. They
Yeah.
don't share, like, oh, yeah,
I was on and
I
off
take
too. Yeah.
this. And I think a lot more people actually take these things than admit to it. And so it's kind of, it feels like a taboo thing, but a lot of people do it and it's okay. My view on it is that it shouldn't be the ultimate solution. I don't want it to be the ultimate solution for me. I want it to be a tool that helps, that allows me more space to work on those thoughts. Because remember, we were talking about just taking little baby steps. Well, sometimes taking those little baby steps is so overwhelming that it's just not even in the picture right now. And that, I believe, as someone who is not a psychologist or psychiatrist,
You're
that's like a
non-professional
really
opinion.
good time, right? I'm not a professional. I'm not going to prescribe medication, right? That's not my expertise. But that to me has been the best time in my life that I really needed it, because I really couldn't even work on my thoughts at that point. Like everything was so out of control. The medication helped get me to a place where I was able to then work with a professional to start working on those thoughts.
Yeah.
And then later to like work also with coaching, and through coaching that I'm learning and also doing some self-coaching, like all these different tools, psychiatrists, psychologists, coaches, everything helping me reshape the patterns of my mind.
Yeah.
And I realized that a lot of the anxiety and the depression that I've experienced forever, it always seemed when I was younger like it was not up to me and I had no control of it. And this is just the way it is, which at the time was kind of a comforting thought because it meant I didn't have to do anything. Um,
Yeah.
then to graduating to nothing's wrong with me, that was kind of the next realization. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm human and I'm imperfect, and that's perfect. Like, I'm perfectly imperfect. And my perfection has nothing to do with my value or my worth. Like, all of us always are 100% worthy, 100% valuable, and we cannot ever do anything to give ourselves more value or to take away from our value. You have inherent value just as a human, okay? Just by being. That never changes. And when you can realize that, like, that was the biggest burden off of my back, because I didn't have to do and perform, and my feelings were more free to just be, instead of, oh, I have shame about feeling this feeling or I have regret about something I did. Like, those things start to fall off when you realize that your value is just always 100%. But our perfection, right, that fluctuates. We're never ever perfect,
Yeah.
but sometimes we do things really well and sometimes we don't do a very good job at things. And that's okay, because it still doesn't mean that we're more or less valuable.
Yeah.
Um, so with that, with my journey, it was realizing like, hey, I have all this value. I'm always enough. I'm already enough. I don't need to do anything to earn it. And then I was more able to get to a place of, okay, well, I don't like the way that the world looks to me. I don't like the way that I react to the world. I don't like feeling depressed and hopeless or just empty. I don't like feeling anxious and having racing thoughts about the 4 bazillion different possible outcomes
This
of
one
every little
yeah,
situation.
every situation. Oh my gosh.
Because it's like, I think, oh, well, if I do this one thing, then that leads to these 3 things, which you've got a whole like tree branch.
I call it my dark and twisty spiral. Like I'll start with one thing and then it's like one thing's upsetting me and then it's like all of a sudden I'm like, and da, 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 and I can't do anything about climate change. And like, it's just like, it'll go from like, I'm upset about like one little thing happening. And then I'm like, and I can't do anything about climate change. Like there's people dying. And like, then I'm like, whoa, like let me
Right.
tornado this into like a big, yeah. And I don't like
Which sounds like almost like this sense of responsibility that like you're almost thinking I should do these things.
Yeah.
But like, can you?
No, in that moment, like, let's focus on the root of the issue. Like, that's always
Right.
what I try to bring it back to. Like, what was the original problem here? Like, can
Right.
we solve that? You know, and
Right.
if we can't solve that, what can we kind of do to get?
Yeah. And then you can realize that you can't take ownership of anyone else. No one else's feelings are in your control.
Yeah.
No one else's actions are in your control. So, like climate change, can you on your own reverse it? No, but you could also take simple steps to reduce your impact.
Yeah.
Can you cure coronavirus? As far as I know, you're not a doctor or but a chemist, so you're not going to be in a lab like working on anything, right?
Yeah.
But
my shot at that one, but
right. But you could stay home so that you are not catching or spreading.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Back to the things you can control.
So yeah, always back. It's always comes back to that. Yeah. And that's what it was for me, was coming back to, okay, like I don't want all of these things are like, these are the results I'm having. I'm afraid, I'm anxious, I'm depressed. And then realizing that I didn't really want those things in my life. They really didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, with help, I can overcome it. And I did have a point of hey, like I'm going to be a burden. Even with my therapist, right? I'm paying her to listen to me and help me through my problems. But I didn't want to be a burden. So I didn't.
I've had that too.
I wasn't honest, which is so silly. And what she asked me that helped me with that was, if you had a friend going through what you're going through, Alex, that's feeling the way you're feeling right now, and they came to you and told you this, how would you feel about it? I was like, well, I'd really want to be there for them, and I'd want to listen, and I'd want to just be available and be present for them in any way that I could. She's like, right. Isn't it possible that they could feel the same about you?
Yeah.
That you're not a burden to them? And I was like, oh, never thought of that.
Yeah. So I think it's a good like transition, because what I was going to say, kind of like, I think that in general, it can feel really hard to ask for help in those situations, whether that's asking a friend or a parent or coach or other mentor figure in your life. But I think especially now, like with, and I really didn't want to make this all about coronavirus, but it's hard not to. Like it's like,
well, that's what we're
living with right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially with that, like I think something that is hard is thinking like if anyone listening is feeling stressed out or like anxious or depressed about this global pandemic, I think it's really easy. And I went through this as well. And I've already heard from other people feeling like this, of like, well, everyone is dealing with this, so I don't want to be a burden and ask for help because everyone's dealing with this and this is stressful for everyone and I don't want to upset them. And so, my first answer to that, and I know it's the easy answer, is to say like, you're not, like, again, back to what we were talking about, like if you reach out to help from a friend or family member, like most likely they're going to meet you with like, oh my gosh, same, I've been feeling the same thing. And you're going to have a moment of connection like over that. But I don't know, I was trying to think of some kind of like advice and tips for like asking for help, because asking for help normally can be really scary, but I think it can be especially scary now. And I think that at the end of the day, like my biggest tip is just take a deep breath, ask for help, even in the smallest of ways, whether that's asking a friend to call you, asking your parents with help, making sure you get up and stick on a schedule, asking your sibling to help you stay on a schedule. You know, reaching out to your coaches, me or Eric, and saying, hey, can you, like, my goal is to come to the Zoom classes these days this week. And then that way we have a little bit of accountability of like, we'll check in with you if we don't hear from you. You know, like it can be little things like that. You don't need to go to someone and say, I'm feeling so overwhelmed and anxious and terrified by all this and this reality. It can just be, hey, like, I want to do this. Can you help me get that done? And like that opens up the doors for the conversations for asking for more help. Because I know asking for help can scare. Like I definitely was like, it took me probably 6 or 8 months after I kind of really realized I was having these like severe panic attacks, like in high school, to be like, I don't want to feel like this. Like I need help with it. And it was a very like tough thing to say, like, I'm having these things happen and I don't know why, and I need help. And like, that's a scary conversation, but bit by bit, you can ask for little things. It doesn't have to be like this big confessional moment, I think is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
And even I think sometimes it's really, really hard to, in the moment, to believe that there is another possibility, that there is a life that could be different. But I would encourage you, like, if you are not happy with the way that things are in your life right now, or the way that you're feeling right now, then there is another possibility out there.
Yeah.
There's
100%.
always a possibility. And it really, in the moment, I know it seems impossible. Like, no
Yeah.
way. This is just the way it always is. There is possibility out there, but no one's going to do it for you. So that puts the control back in your hands. Like, if you do want it to be different, it can be, but it's going to start with one brave step in your life, which might just be having that conversation to whoever you are comfortable with and saying, hey, I don't like this thing. Do you think you could help me with it? Or do you think I could talk with you about it?
Yeah.
Um,
It is just that one brave little step. Yeah. And I think everyone listening to this, like, you have people, you have friends, parents, but at the end of the day, even if those don't feel attainable, you have me, you have Eric, you have teachers, you have counselors at school. All of those people want to help you. So, you know,
100%.
just putting that out there. I think it's an extra important time to talk about that and remind people that, like, we're all in this, we're all people and we all want to help each other. And yeah, one brave step. I like that.
And you coach because you love the bees so much and you care about them so much, right?
I do. Yeah.
You don't.
And that's the same reason your teachers are your teachers too. Like they
right.
Trust me, people go into teaching, and I'm about to go into it too. Like, people who want to be teachers are there because they care about the kids. They're not there for any other reason, because there really isn't that much else that's glamorous about it other than the thought that you can help some kids learn and grow into good adults. So yeah. That's awesome. Well, cool. Thank you so much for being so brave and sharing your story and being vulnerable and open and all that good stuff. We close out.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You were one of the first people that came to my mind when I decided this was happening and we were launching this. So I know that you've been on Grounds After Rounds and they do gratitude at the end. I'm mixing it up a little bit and making it a little bit more fun, but like sticking with our theme. So it's one thing that you're proud of this week, one thing that you're looking forward to next week, and then one thing you're grateful for, because it's always good to be gratitude and share gratitudes. So if you need a second. And then we have a little thing I do at the end too. So it's fun.
So proud of this last week. So as I mentioned, I have a team of coaches that work for my company now. And I tend to try to do too much on my own because I am, again, like asking for help. So I've been working really hard on that recently at pushing myself, and it's scary. But so far I haven't died and no one's bitten my head off or anything. It's been wonderful. So I asked my team for help last weekend, and put responsibilities on them. And guess what? The world didn't crash and burn, and I felt great, and I didn't have to do all this extra stuff that I was putting on myself.
That's great. Oh, I'm proud of you.
So I'm proud of that progress
That's
in
great.
in asking for help.
Awesome.
What was the second part?
Something you're looking forward to next week.
Okay, so this week I'm looking forward to, we are starting to offer some new like free resources and everyone during this time. And so I'm very excited about that. Just how we're kind of coming together as a team. And I'm also, okay, I have like two things. I'm really excited because when this virus and everything went crazy and we all kind of like started staying at home, that first week I spent so much time hosting online workouts that I didn't really make any time for my own personal stuff. And so I am very excited. Last week I did 2 workouts with Fairwinds, and this next week I have no reason not to. I will be doing a workout with Fairwinds on Zoom every day. So I'm looking forward to that so much. That's the community.
And then your gratitude?
And then my gratitude. I'm really grateful for friends during this time. Like and technology that connects us.
It's a good one. That was maybe going to be mine, but it's okay. I'm thinking of
being able to talk with you the other night for well over an hour just driving around was really awesome. And we didn't have cell phones, we couldn't do that. So
yeah, it's awesome. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so full disclosure, the day we're recording this, I just did this yesterday with Eric for the proud and gratitude. So I'm trying to think of different things, which is challenging. I would say that I'm proud of myself. It's kind of simple, but my dad and I did a little home workout in the garage here yesterday in the afternoon. We did collectively between the two of us 1,000 box step ups to a 20-inch box. And I wore just a 12-pound weighted vest. It was like, we called it Chad-ish. Like there's the Hero Wad Chad. That's 1,000 box step ups with a weighted pack or vest. So we split it up between this. I don't really know where this idea came from or why we decided we wanted to do it, but it was really fun. And I was proud of myself because like, as we got started, I was like, what have we decided to do? But we finished it in under an hour and it was fun. So that's what I'm proud of. And then this week I'm looking forward to, I'm coaching 2 days a week now with the Zoom calls instead of lead coaching on one. So I'm excited for my second week of doing that. And we have our own, Beasts are going to have their own programming again, so not the same programming as adults. So I'm excited for that for them.
Awesome.
We just we're transitioning into that for the past couple of weeks. So I'm excited for that. And then I am grateful for, similarly to your technology thing, I'm grateful for the technology to do Zoom calls with doctors too. Because I had a couple doctor's appointments this week that they did via telehealth, and it was like seamless and perfect. And like the fact that like we can still get health care provided to us digitally without having to go in most situations, I think is a really cool advancement. And I like that everyone is like, just in general, I have gratitude for the way that the world is kind of adapting and figuring out new things to keep as much of our normalcy there as possible.
I second that. Just with all of this, yes, it is horrible that there are people dying, right? And I'm not negating that at all. By us all staying home a lot more though, right, by this quarantine and everything, there are a lot of really good things that are coming from it as far as like advancing as the human species.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of like businesses and everything are realizing there's so much more that they can do remotely that are great. That's really helpful. And like doctor's appointments and telehealth and everything, these are things that we've had the capability of doing for years, but there was never any
exactly. And like I think it'll help a lot. Like I think about times in the past where I couldn't get into a doctor's appointment because of work, but like I could have, gone outside on my lunch break and done the 15-minute phone call for the same health, but instead of taking 20 minutes to drive there, 15 minutes, like the whole thing, like I just logged on. This was for like my asthma. My doctor, I logged on. We talked about what was going on. They sent in a refill for some stuff. It was 15 minutes. But if I'd had to go there to the office in Arnold, it's like an hour and a half of my time. And like I mean, not the end of the world either.
It's
Like, but it's kind of nice. Like, I was like, oh, hopefully these for like routine check-ups can be, if they don't really need to see you, we can keep doing this because it's so much more efficient. Like,
yeah. This is all an opportunity to innovate. And if there was
yeah.
like any challenge that I could give to you, Beast, that would be
Oh,
to
yeah.
look this week on ways that you can innovate in your life. What are things that you used to do one way that now maybe you could do a different way and maybe even do better a different way?
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Well, our little game that we play at the end that I kind of just
Oh
made
yeah.
up on the spot yesterday were there because like I find something kind of like funny on Instagram and we either like read it or like do it.
Okay, I love
Hear me
it.
out.
Let's do
So
it.
this one is like it's like a tweet like screenshot on Instagram, and it says your quarantine nickname is how you feel right now plus the last thing you ate out of the cupboard. So then the example that they gave is
Out
you
of
can
the
call me angry chili mango. So I would be grateful honey nut Cheerios.
I am excited Oreo.
Yeah, I think like I just try to find like random like we just it's like the equivalent of Eric's joke at the end of Grounds After Rounds. It's like
Yeah.
find just random thing that can get us laughing to bring it home.
Excited Oreo. And
Oh my god.
what was it? Happy? No.
No, I said grateful honey nut Cheerio.
Grateful Honey Nut Cheerio.
Cheerios. Been eating a lot of honey nut Cheerios. Kind of like I call them my like they're kind of my like anxiety food. Like I'm like they're my like favorite
I
little
love
thing to
that.
kind of just snack on, like dry.
Because they're
Just
so
dry
small
honey
and
nut
you can just
Cheerios.
like eat
And you don't
one
need much of them,
and
but I'll just take it
one
out.
and
Yeah, they're great. All right. Well, excited Oreo and grateful honey nut Cheerio are closing out another great episode of Beast Feast. So thank you again, Alex. This was fabulous. You are
thank
amazing.
you.
All right. We will see ya off the creek, people. Lots of love.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.